if democracy is not going to be perfect anywhere, anyway, at all, as we have seen, as we always see, we see that, you know. What I don't like is just the hypocrisy. You are so deep in your own mess about democracy, and then you think you have authority to come and make criticisms about others, and even want that to have a consequence on them.
The reason for Africans being underdeveloped, even after the independence granted to them over 50, 60, 40 years, depending on the country and when they got their independence, is as a result of the fact that we have an illiterate people trying to govern African countries. Welcome to Politics on the Wheel, Will J, and this is LA TV. Now, the president of Rwanda, who took over power since 2000, is still seeking for the fourth term in office. He has been in power for over 20 years, and then he still wants to run for power. And according to him, he said even the next 20 years. So he wants to be the long-serving president of the people of Rwanda. Now, the issue here is this. Before I play you the video where he had an interview with one of the Western journalists, the issue here is this: why this so much, quest to remain in power? But before I talk much about this quest for African leaders, to remain in power, I will quickly give you a little brief of what happened in Germany, what happened in Russia, and other parts of these Western countries and Asian countries where they have their leaders also who stayed more than 2 terms in office. But before I talk too much about that, here is a video of the Rwandan president where in an interview he was asked this question about his 4th term in office and his response.
On a democracy that's not exactly a democracy, always saying this comes from the West or Western media or Western organization. Don't they have a point at all?
Wouldn't I have a point if I criticized the Western democracy?
Sure.
Yeah. So what is the problem? If democracy is not going to be perfect anywhere, anyway, at all, as we have seen, as we always see, we see that, What I don't like is just the hypocrisy. You are so deep in your own mess about democracy, and then you think you have authority to come and make criticisms about others, and even want that to have a consequence on them.
It's 2 years
yeah.
in power. The next election is scheduled in 2024. You haven't said whether you would run, but do you consider running or?
Well, I will consider running for another 20 years.
Really?
I have no problem with that.
Really?
Yes. But
This means the president.
We're talking about elections.
Yes.
Again, this is the contradiction and the hypocrisy I'm talking about.
Well, the
question of terms in office, not whether the election is free or fair, and his response to that, give me this this belief that yes, we need to stop the Western countries to stop prognosing in our affair. But before you try to stop them from prognosing in your affair, then we should be able to stop going to their country for vacation. We should stop going to their country for medical trip. We should stop going to their country, for some of those unnecessary, trips that we have to European nations. For example, look at the coup that happened recently. The president some years back went to Europe to import snow. That is fake life, So for African leaders, if you don't want the Western country to prognose in your own affair, then you have to try to develop your nations. Now, issues of having a free and fair election, not talking about, terms in office. If you ask me, if the election is free and fair, I don't think you will stay in that office for so long, except you are performing extraordinary. If not, the people in Africa tends to be like they are being suppressed in such a way that if you go out to talk now, they release the army on you. Like what happened in Nigeria. You could see that on the 25th of February, the election was conducted to announce the result. They announced the result in the middle of the night while people are sleeping, and as the day break, you see military everywhere to make sure that nobody cough. Now, there was a case in court as a result of the announcement of the who was declared the winner. Now, they still went ahead to neutralize the whole country to make sure that nobody air out their view in terms of saying, oh, we don't want this. Give us our judgment. We don't want this. Or maybe people coming out to say, no, this is not what we want. This is not who we voted for. And what the court is trying to do, we don't support that. And at the end of the day, you saw what the kind of judgment that came out of the court, showing that things that are taboos are now being endorsed by the court of law, which is as an insult to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And this goes a long way, in other African nations. Now, let's look at the last part of the video.
Could be limit on the mandates, right?
Elections are about people choosing, isn't it?
Right. When they're free and fair, yes.
And that's yes, okay. But you haven't at least of all the criticisms you have had, nobody has said the elections have not been free or fair. But we have had it in other places that people don't even talk about, including even people who complain about us. So don't you have, right now as we speak, we are having cases in the developed world about elections.
Right.
You remember not so long ago, there is a case going on somewhere in a very advanced democracy about
in the United States, yes.
Somebody who wants to... So this is, I think people have to decide what they want to do for themselves. You see, you have problems of your own that somebody should be questioning, and then you want to, be the one to dictate what I should be doing. At the same time, even with the contradiction, because if you are talking about elections, and the election is about people choosing.
Yes, sir, but there could be...
You are saying if it is free and fair, but that has not been the accusation. The accusation is different. Even the one you started, you are not talking about how free or not free the elections are. You are talking about just having to choose so many times. I think that this is different.
Right, but people could say...
Which one are you supposed to accept? People can say that, yes, and I would accept it. But if they said the other one also, I would accept it. So what is the issue here?
Issues of whether the democracy is perfect or it's not perfect. Looking at what is going on in other countries, we shouldn't use that to juxtapose our ambition to remain in office. I advocate for, trying to have a longer term in office in order to actualize some certain goals. But then, if you ask me, I always said this, that our legislators, they are supposed to make a law that in the next 100 years, this is what we want to achieve in this country. In the next 50 years, the next 200 years, when you have such goals, then you will discover that whichever political spectrum, come up to take over power within a specific period of time, either 4, 5, or 10 years, or 8 years, as the case may be, you'll be able to follow the template. But in a situation where you don't have any form of template, then they come introduce their own and go. And this is what I keep talking about. For Africa to develop, we need a 100 years plan. We need a 200 years plan. The whole world is changing every day. You need to change alongside. So you have those plans. You can review them 5, 10 years. You can review them as time goes. But this is the template. So when you look at the United States of America, if you look at the way the country is being run, you will discover that we have the Democrat and the Republican, and you see their philosophy, you see their ideology, whenever the Democrats take over power, you see the way they open their hands because they are more liberal. When you look at the Republican, they are more conservative. And if you look at their policies and all of that, some, like Donald Trump once said, it is just all about the United States. Then you see Joe Biden coming in. It's not just about the United States alone. It's about the world. It's about what we can do, this and that. So until we have political parties with concrete ideologies and not following those ideology, there is no headway for African nations. What do you think about this video? Please react positively and share this video to reach a larger audience. Thank you.